Alright guys, intuitive eating or macro tracking. Let's talk about it. First, let's define each. So macro tracking is really when we're going to weigh our food, use an app like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, I think is how you say it, to log the information in the food that we're eating so we can get a numeric value on our calories, protein, fat, carbs, fiber, those kind of things. This is a lot more of a precise way about going about nutrition. However, it does require a little bit more time, effort, and work. While intuitive eating is just really bringing awareness to your food and making decisions rather than just kind of aimlessly eating, but not necessarily keeping track of anything, at least on paper or in an app. It's going based on what you feel is right for your body and what works well with your body. Now, the super simple answer here is that for a lot of people, especially if they have a targeted goal, whether that's fat loss, muscle building, performance, whatever it may be, I think that spending some time tracking is super beneficial and probably the correct path, mainly because it does bring more precision and it gives a little bit more clarity as to what's happening. We can be a lot more exact about what we're doing with your nutrition so that you can more quickly achieve your goals. That's not to say that you can't quickly achieve your goals or you won't achieve your goals if you go intuitively. It's just we can be more exact or precise with it. Intuitive eating, on the other hand, is really great for if we're really busy in life and we just have a lot on our plate, so to say, and not want to be weighing and tracking and constantly thinking about food. Or if we're in a time of kind of maintenance where I'm not as focused on really making changes to my body, but more so just focused on staying healthy and keeping things status quo. It's also really going to be dependent on how experienced you are with managing your nutrition. Intuitive eating requires a lot of kind of prior education, not only about food, but also the ability to listen to your body and understand what signals you're getting. A lot of things that people don't necessarily think about with food even. So, people will think about hunger and energy and weight loss and those kind of things, but also thinking about sleep quality, performance, libido, the health of your hair, skin, and nails, hormone health. All those things are also affected by nutrition and things that you want to be paying attention to. And you're paying attention to both of those in intuitive eating and in macro tracking, but again, with macro tracking, we just have more data to be able to make changes with. It's a little bit easier to say, okay, based on the numbers I'm seeing and the trends that we're seeing, I think we need to make this adjustment. Again, though, both can be very strong ways to approach your nutrition, and a lot of people, myself included, will phase in and out of both. I tend to structure my nutrition around what my goals are at the time. If I'm really focused on performance or body composition, I'm going to go back to weighing and tracking and macro tracking. Even though at this point in my life, I am pretty able to manage those things without the tracking just because I've done it for so long, I like to have the precision and like to have the plan. But I've spent long periods of time intuitive eating as well, especially when I catch myself overly consumed with the thoughts of food or kind of overly trying to control things. Or if I just don't have a super targeted goal. I think it's important that you play around with both of these options and figure out which is right for you. But from a coaching perspective, a lot of times I'm going to start people with macro tracking. It just makes it easier for us to educate you, makes it easier to continue making progress, gives us a whole nother set of metrics that we can modify based on how you're responding. And it's really good to start to set some of those foundational nutrition habits. After that, ideally what we would do is then move towards intuitive eating, and we might not do it all at once, but we might move towards something where we track a couple days a week or one day of the week and one day of the weekend, just to keep a little bit of a structure or guardrail up, but then just intuitively eat or kind of try to mimic without the tracking on those other days. The goal would be long term that you don't need to weigh and track. That is one thing I want to be clear about. We shouldn't feel like we need to weigh and track for the remainder of our lives. It should always be a choice. Even in the beginning, it's a choice, right? You don't have to accomplish your goals. So you always need to take into consideration, what's reasonable for you to do. If you don't feel like you have the time or the mental capacity at this time to dedicate towards weighing and tracking, then it's not going to be the right option for you. Just like if you feel like I have been trying to intuitively eat for a long time and it hasn't gotten me my results, well, maybe it is time to take on tracking. So we can use both of these tools to our advantage, and I think that a lot of people need to spend time with both. But long term, or if I were to create a super generalized plan about it, it would start with tracking until we get pretty close to where your target outcome is or your goal is. Then we start to kind of wean off tracking. So we have some guardrails, but we're starting to also pay attention to what I do when I don't have those guardrails. And then eventually move into just full on intuitive eating, listening to your body, understanding based on the things that you've learned on your journey what to do next. So hopefully you find this information helpful and it clears up any questions you have about whether you should track or go the intuitive eating route or habit-based route. But if you have anything else, just let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks, guys.